A great meeting point, convenient light meals, hot and cold beverages, or a quick snack on the go? What's your order for the day? We don't just say, we do. It's the Stain City way.
Good afternoon and welcome to Real Talk with me, Anele. We're approaching Christmas and there is a cheerful excitement in the air. Children are on a break from school and most people are taking time away from their busy lives. During this period, most homes are bursting with laughter, food, music and gifts, but not everybody is happy during December, especially during Christmas time. For some, this will be the first time they spend Christmas without a loved one, and seeing people in a celebratory mood might bring a certain sense of loneliness and sadness. Many South Africans go through pain, disappointment, loneliness, and all forms of abuse, and the added expectation to be merry during this time of the year may be too stressful, and it might trigger anxiety and depression. Emotional pain and stressful experiences can be a bit tricky. We get told that time will heal, but no one knows how long that takes, right? So these are the words from my first guest. She is the founder of the Destined for Greatness, an organization that mentors young people in character building. She's also the author of My Pain Perfected, The Path of Being Carried, Finding Purpose Through Pain. She's here to share her story of pain, depression, sexual abuse, loss of parents, and overcoming the pain in many forms. Smamkele Dial, welcome to Real Talk.
Thank you, Sissy.
Yeah, your surname has got everybody running around.
I'm Anele Mdoda. Hey.
Dial,
Yeah,
like as in I pick up a phone and I dial.
I think it yango daile, and then.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
diale.
No, I think yango daile.
Daile, and then
yeah,
spell-
and then yeah.
Oh,
my
so-
great-grandfather was a policeman back then, so I think they.
Somebody spelled it wrong,
Yeah.
and now you like.
I think to get in the system, he had to have an English surname,
I
so
see.
that's how they.
And now this is you.
This is me.
Well, thank you for your time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for giving us time during this
inviting
festive
me.
season.
Thank
So,
you.
I mean, give me that title. This is the part when my path being carried, finding purpose through pain, my pain perfected. Pain perfected?
The title of the book, My Pain Perfected, came from a very spiritual connotation.
Yes.
I wrote the book on my 7th year of being saved, but also my parents had a 7-year gap between them in passing
age.
away.
Oh.
Yeah, so my dad passed away in '97 and my mother passed away in 2004. And spiritually, number 7 is a whole number, a perfect number. And you know, when I got the enlightenment that actually it's time for you to write this down, that's how My Pain Perfected came along.
So, did you grow up feeling like life was constantly just throwing you like the bad hand, right?
God.
You like, when will I get a break?
Oh my word! I think that's been me all my life.
Really?
All my life, and only this morning actually, I realized that I'm a miracle baby from birth. I was born with my bones not formed, and I was also not breathing, and so an incubator had to raise me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
And
that's. I mean, not that you
so
remember
the struggle
it, but
was
that would be your first
that would be my
brush.
first kind of struggle, I
With
guess.
pain.
Yeah, and it went on sexual abuse and rape from the ages of 6 and 9. My mother was an alcoholic. My mother then passed. Well, my dad passed on before I met him in '97, and my mother then passed away in 2004.
So you knew your dad, you just had not met him.
I knew about him.
Okay.
He was never present in my life.
Was that a painful thing, knowing that he's out there and he's not, like, like?
It was at that point in time. It wasn't a painful thing because he was just a. I think he was just a mist.
Yeah,
You know, his
I hear
name
what
was
you're
just,
saying.
yeah. I only started really experiencing the pain when my mom passed on because I then connected everything, you know? Because it's not easy to be raised by an alcoholic mother and a grandmother who is not earning a lot and who's trying by all means to make sure that you survive.
Yeah.
And to have a father who was of his stature, educated and everything, but not taking care of me. That took a kick when my mom passed on.
So when you're trying to grapple with your mother's addiction for alcohol, you know, do you forgive her?
Yeah, it took a while, Sissy, I don't want to lie. It took a while. And I only got to forgive her when I understood what she was going through at the time. And how I got to understand what she was going through was because I was going through the same.
What was that?
She was depressed. She just didn't know that it was depression.
Okay. So how did you find out that you were depressed?
After my mom's passing, I became very ill, and I was in grade 8 at the time when she passed on.
Baby.
Just getting into high school. She passed away in March, and I became very sick. And I was a smart kid, and all of a sudden things were not so great anymore. And at first I failed the first term, and my grandmother was like, "Okay, I'll be nice to you," kind of thing. And
also,
then
your mom just passed away, so maybe it's that stress.
So maybe it's that stress.
Yeah.
And then in the second term, then I got very ill, and then like academics were just a no-go. And we went to the doctor, and he was like, "I think that you might be depressed."
Oh, so okay, so they got it quickly, I
guess. They got it quickly, but it only started getting treated the following year, because then I kept on getting ill. Because I think different people manifest differently. For me, it was physically.
Okay, so when the doctor is saying to your grandmother she's depressed, surely the first thing your grandmother does
is take you to church. Also, what is depression?
Yeah. Who depressed? Who depressed are you doing?
And actually, I think my grandmother was just like, we will pray this away.
This is what I'm saying. That they probably took you to church.
Yeah. So that was just, you know, it's a thing. It will go away. Like it was a treatment, and then it will go away.
Yeah.
And it became worse. It became worse.
How?
It became worse because I think I was struggling with being a teenager and dealing with so much, and at the same time, I don't understand this depression thing. I don't understand that it is depression. So at times I wouldn't take the pills that they gave me. At times I would just not care, you know? And also I had no one to speak to, because my grandmother and I are two different generations. And we couldn't actually sit down and actually say, okay, how are you feeling? What's going on? And all of that. So I had to deal with everything on my own. And the painful thing is that when you've always been dealing with things your whole life, there's a point where you crash. And that was my crashing point.
Okay, so you crash.
Yeah.
What's crashing? Like, do you, like, literally, because you know what it is, like, what is it?
For me, it was being disengaged. I didn't care about anything. In fact, I was very suicidal.
Would it shock you that you were disengaged about things? Like, because you're like, Aibo.
No,
okay.
I was just not interested, and I don't understand why people have problems with me not being interested. Because to me, it's normal. It's like, I just don't care today. So don't talk to me. And then tomorrow I don't care. Tomorrow I just want to close the curtains.
Okay, so is it like one constant stream, or will Monday be okay, but Tuesday and Thursday are terrible?
Might be bad. Yeah, it's not a constant.
Okay.
You know, today might be a good day, tomorrow might be not too bad, and then the next 3 days could be horrible.
Okay, so after your crash, because then obviously what would you say was rock bottom in your crash?
Rock bottom for me was being physically ill, and being and also just abusing alcohol while I was in high school. And my grandmother didn't know about it. She couldn't tell. I dated the wrong people as well, and my let out was sex. And my let out was sex because it's an activity that I grew up with. I made it part of me because I didn't know. So
when you say you grew up with it, it's because you were raped and sexually abused at 6 and 9. So it's like it wasn't a big thing for you. It's like, well, I've done it already.
Became exactly. Well, what happens when you're in that situation is that it becomes a part of who you are, and your abuser convinces you that this is this is the right thing to do.
Also, at 6 and 9, it was continuous.
Yes,
it was
continuous. So so by the time I got to high school, that was my only way of verifying that I'm actually worth it.
So that was your idea of power, because you powerless everywhere else, but with sex, like I know this, I own it. So okay, my word, that is really interesting. So then you've crashed. Who picks you up? Do you pick yourself up? Do you tell someone?
I had to pick myself up. I had to pick myself up, and I had to pick myself. Yeah. I had to pick myself up because I've got a grandmother who does not have any other child but me, who has never had a child go to university and is expecting that to happen with me. And to break the cycle of poverty, I need to do something. And so I limped through. And yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. Sure, this conversation with Anele Mdoda will continue after the break, and she'll be joined by a clinical psychologist as we continue to learn more about depression, well, during this holiday season and really in general. Stay tuned. And welcome back to Real Talk. So according to IDEA, study of London School of Economics and Political Science completed in 2016, depression cost South Africa more than 232 billion, or 5.7% of our GDP. You might wonder why I'm talking about depression at this time of the year. Well, at the end of the year, holiday seasons and family gatherings can be stressful to different types of people. This is an issue most people would rather leave swept under the carpet. Author and rape survivor Anele Mdoda is here to help us unpack the very important topic. She's now joined by clinical psychologist Jasmine Kurvaji to give us an expert opinion on the matter. Jasmine, welcome to the couch.
Thank you.
So we'll go with you quickly. I mean, you know, people don't expect that this is the time when people are going to be depressed. You know, there's Santa Claus is painted on every window. He's pulling a sleigh, and the sleigh has gifts. And, you know, everyone is like, oh, I can't wait. It's downtime. It's downtime. But I mean, you know different. Tell us about that.
So absolutely. I mean, it's a myth that this should be the happiest time of the year. Actually, this is the time when family and individuals actually start self-reflecting, one. And when they start self-reflecting, they're looking at everyone else and seeing what everyone else is doing. So here's most of your friends going on holiday, flying out of town, and you can't financially afford it. So there's a lot of stress. So the stress is not living up to the expectations. As a parent, you're also stressed because you can't give your child what every other parent is giving your child. Lots of parents that have children that wrote matric exams are stressed out. What's happening to the marks? What's going to happen next year? Are they going to get into university? Children themselves, exam marks are coming out. It's not the easiest time for kids as well, because they're also waiting for exams marks.
And also, will my marks get me to the course that I want to study?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, okay, you're going to give me the clinical definition of depression, right? But would you agree with me if I say depression is basically not living now? You are stressed about what you didn't do so past, and then you are even stressed and have anxiety about what you didn't do is going to cause in the future.
Yes, definitely, that is part of it. So it's a lot of negative thoughts that go into your mind. So be it whether you only focus on the negative in terms of what you didn't achieve, what you are not, and your self-worth really goes down. So depression also looks at your energy going down, your appetite going down, your sleep could be going up, you know, mostly in depression. You sleep too much as well. You don't have any enjoyment in anything. You have those reckless behaviors. But all of it comes down to when you are non-functional in terms of your personal, social, or occupational living space.
So, Anele, do you dread Christmas?
I do, actually. I do. I've never spent a Christmas with my mother. Well, I don't recall of a Christmas with my mother. And as I grew, Christmas changed within the family even. So it's just one of those, let it come and go.
So what do you do? Is your grandmother still alive?
My grandmother's still alive, so I
Okay.
do go home back to the Eastern Cape.
Yeah.
But it's not a thing for me. Like, it's just, can it happen and can it pass type of thing.
So
Yeah.
what do you sometimes opt to be like working instead?
I would, if it were up to me, I'd be alone.
Oh.
Yeah.
So is depression something you're still, you understand you're still managing it,
Yeah.
right? So you understand that you are a depressed person.
Yes, it never goes away. It never goes away. You just learn how to deal with it with time.
Can you jump in there for me? Because now, like, this is opening another room in this house. So if I am diagnosed as to having depression, I will always be depressed. It's just how I manage it. Is that true?
Well, I think, it can be a little bit less than that. So
Okay.
in terms of depression can be beaten, absolutely. So yes, a lot of you is managing it, but also in terms of continuous work on how you perceive the world and how you think about your situation and actually making different choices. So we hear that Samkele struggles with Christmas time because it's perceived as a very difficult time. So the choice is sometimes to withdraw or not want to engage with it. But actually sometimes practicing, engaging and actually doing something different allows yourself to have a different experience in life. And with that, your perceptions start changing. So managing becomes when you're stuck in that thought process and when you keep perceiving it as a negative experience. So you can overcome depression, but it's working continuously on changing your thoughts and experiences.
Do you agree?
Somewhat, but I feel like from my teenage years, and to getting to a point where I could actually pen down everything that I went through, that was therapeutic. But there are certain triggers.
What are your triggers?
Anything that has to do with family is a trigger for me. Relationships are also a bit of a trigger.
What are you like in relationships now?
Right now, I'm not dating, so I don't know.
Yeah, but I mean, like, how old are you now?
Now, I'm 26.
Okay.
Yeah, now I think I'm more free. I don't put a lot of pressure on the next person.
Yeah.
Whereas at first, I would expect a lot.
Yeah.
Because to me, you must prove that, you're worth me giving you my time or energy. So now I'm free. I have less expectations.
Okay, so there's triggers, right? And triggers are not something, hence it's like a trigger, it's like, an immediate reaction.
Yeah.
But can you see it
Beyond?
Like when you, let's say you're standing here and it's raining in Midrand, right?
Yeah,
and you can see the storm coming.
Yeah.
It's still sunny here, but you can see the storm coming. Do you have that?
I've mastered that. I've mastered that now because I got to confront my issues. And most of the time, we're dealing with the after effect of the issue, which is the depression, and not dealing with what actually caused the depression.
Okay.
So that's my perception. That once you start dealing with what caused it, it's easier for you to actually manage the aftermath.
Okay, I'm coming to you for your professional opinion. Did you come up with this by yourself, or did you see
It's what I learned. With time.
Oh, so
Yeah.
experience taught you that.
Because I had never dealt with my sexual abuse and rape issues. I had never dealt with the fact that my mother was an absent mother because of her alcoholism. I had never dealt with the fact that I grew up in an impoverished kind of home, and I moved around a lot, different families, different exposure. I just was a child that never belonged. And once I got to a place where I said, let's sit down with yourself and actually deal with these issues and figure out what actually happened, that is when my perception changed.
Okay, so Jasmine, she says depression for her is when she deals with the feeling and not necessarily what caused the feeling.
So we see it a little bit differently in terms of, even though it's really important to understand where things started. So for example, having an absent mom or going through that trauma, what we have to also really work on is what's actually maintaining the cycle right now. So remember, all those traumas happened right in the past. But the very fact that you're still depressed or you're still perceiving an environment in a certain way means something's maintaining that. And part of that maintenance comes from how you perceive the world. And emotions and feelings come from how you think about the world. So it's not necessarily about changing the emotions. You got to change the thoughts linked to it, and that's how the emotions change. So, you know, I understand what you say in terms of this is what you've learned, but it's also to understand something's maintaining it.
And that I agree with, because when something happens and then you find alcohol as a place of hiding, that's what's maintaining it. Am I correct? Or certain patterns that you develop along the way. But and I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just saying that most of the time we want to deal with, I'm depressed, but we don't know where it all began. And for me, I think that was my healing process, where I had to go back to, where did this all start?
So if you had to ask yourself now, what's maintaining my depression? What would be your answer?
Right now, I think I've gotten to a place where I'm at peace with self. So, as I said, triggers would be, if something happens that is family related, it does get me to a place of saying, this is sad, this is painful, but I don't stay there, because I understand that I have issues with where I come from.
Do you think that when you have your own family, do you plan to?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not 26 is young. 26 is young. Wait a bit.
I do.
But do you feel like when you have your own family that will be healed, or do you think it's important that you heal before you have a family?
I think I've gone through a very long healing process, and it's still ongoing. Okay. But I don't think having a family would. I don't think it would heal it, because I don't know. I feel like that would be like a fix. You know, having a family will come when it comes, and I will embrace it. But I think that there's certain things that I would do differently, because I know better than where I come from. Yeah.
And you never get scared that you'll be your mom, besides being as beautiful as her?
That is work in progress.
Okay.
That is work in progress all the time.
Do you drink now?
I do. Now.
But like where are we in the scale of like on from recreational drinking to that angle? Where are you?
No, I'm not at the angle.
4, 3.
Yeah, I'm okay-ish. I'm okay-ish. Yeah. It's alcohol for me was not a biggie. I think the biggest thing for me was the sex. Was relationships and sex.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
it was my drug.
Dial. Thank you so much for your story.
Thank you.
Really, like it's dark, I guess, but I mean, you know, the way you carry it and the way you present it to us, like it shows that you are in a process of healing.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for your time.
Anele.
Jasmine, you're staying. Thanks to Mamkele Dal for her sharing her personal story and giving us this topic rather a human face. After the break, clinical psychologist Jasmine Kurvaji stays with us. We'll talk about how to break the stigma around depression. If this is what you want to find out about, best you stay with us. And welcome back to Real Talk on SABC 3. The stage is yours. Being depressed is a medical condition, and you can experience intense emotions of anxiety, hopelessness, negativity, and helplessness that simply won't go away. The festive season is no exception to this, and experts say that feelings of sadness may increase around this period. Clinical psychologist Jasmine Kurvaji is still here to share her professional insights about depression. So let's get into the stigma. Actually, no, before we do that, what's the difference between being depressed and just feeling down? And how do you know where you are in on the spectrum? Yeah.
So everything is on a spectrum. So it's also about the severity of your low mood. So if your low mood is making you be isolated, it's also about frequency. If it's happening more than 4 days within the week for most of the time, where your mood is most low versus being high, then we would say you possibly depressed, because it's also impacting on your everyday living. So you're becoming non-functional in either social, personal, or occupational life. Being low is not as severe, where you're still able to go to work, you're still able to get out during the day, you're still able to function socially, you're not isolating yourself. So you may be feeling low due to a certain circumstance that's happening. So severity, frequency, that's what distinguishes the two.
Okay, what if I'm like feeling generally low but it's a process of me just removing people from my life, right? So you don't want to see your people socially, but you still go to work.
So part of it is dependent on, remember, malfunction needs to be in 1 or 2 settings, right? So if you're functioning at all settings, but still having that niggly feeling, that could be feeling low.
Okay.
But obviously, you know, the moment it's every day, you're struggling to sleep, you're struggling to eat, your energy is down, you have to think then possibly there is depression going on.
So you're a clinical psychologist.
That's right.
And then the other guys, they're psychiatrists.
So psychiatrists are the people that also do psychotherapy, but they prescribe medication. So they're medical doctors that have specialized and studied further, versus a clinical psychologist are those that do psychotherapy with children, adolescents, adults, as well as families.
Okay, so you the couch lady, you have a couch in your office.
Yeah, we have a couch,
And
not
then
necessarily people lying down though.
And no, and you and I talk and you just like, you bounce with me and figure out where all of these feelings of what I'm feeling stem from.
Absolutely. So it's not to solve your problems for you. It's to help you think through the problems and help you process it and understand it so that you could make better choices in terms of how you cope with it.
So then let's go back to my original question, which I cut you short on, the stigma. So when you see patients come through and, you know, they chat to you and then there's like a breakthrough and then the heavens open up, surely you see that there's a stigma around them accepting that, oh, wow, I'm depressed.
Absolutely.
So what is the stigmas around depression?
So firstly, sometimes people go into denial where they don't want to accept that they may be depressed because depression for them has a certain meaning. And that meaning may be that they're inadequate, that they're not good enough, that something's wrong with them. And especially with young adults or even adolescents, to accept that something is wrong is really hard for them because they feel different to everyone else. It means that they're not the same as their friends. So you'll find, especially severe depression or depression with people that need medication, a lot of them then stop their medication because they feel like, no, nothing's wrong. I have control of this. You know, why should I take medication?
And would there be ever a situation where you taking medication and then you find you don't need to take it anymore? Because maybe that's why they stop taking the medication. It's like, you know what, I feel great.
A lot of them stop their medication, but what they don't understand is the reason why they're okay is because they're on the medication. So part of it is not to stop the medication by yourself. Part of it is to ensure that the psychiatrist is helping you through the process, because sometimes there is a timeline where we say, okay, so be on the medication for 2 years, and then what we'll do is we start lowering the dose, and if you still maintain your level of wellness, then we can consider stopping the medication. Other people, due to family history, genetic loading, we feel like that could be someone that may need the medication for the rest of their lives.
Are you allowed to drink on the medication? Because maybe that's another reason they stop taking it. Like,
Absolutely.
I just want a gin and tonic.
So the advice is, try not to drink on the medication. You shouldn't be drinking or taking any drugs on the medication because psychiatric medication has a much more severe side effect. But obviously the psychiatrist is more amenable to guide those side effects, you know. But just law is try not to drink on
try not to drink. Okay.
Try not to drink on the medication.
And something I was asking Smamkele and I didn't come to you, so now I want to do it. Is there ways to see that I'm on the road to depression and we curb it earlier on? Or is it just my path? Is it just the hand that I'm being dealt that in my life, Anele, you're going to be depressed?
So, yes and no.
Okay.
Both can happen. So, you know, you need to be insightful enough to be able to see those triggers or those patterns in terms of if you were, you know, going from normal thought to mostly negative thoughts, to mostly seeing things as bad or things as being very difficult or, you know, I'm feeling like I don't want to see anyone, or you notice changes in your sleep, your appetite, your energy, automatically that should indicate that there's a problem happening, you know. Sometimes adolescents, they don't realize that they're being depressed. And then we rely on parents to recognize that there's a problem and for parents to start seeking help for their child or their adolescent.
How, in terms of like examples that you've seen in your profession, how early have you seen, like, because I have a 2-year-old son, can he be depressed?
Well, not really in 2, but you know, it starts usually in young adolescents. So, it's not uncommon to find a 10-year-old or 11-year-old depressed as well. So, you know, parents need to also see that there's a change in their child. Children manifest depression differently than how adults do. So children won't be sad and isolated. They'll be angry and lashing out. So you have to consider that. Don't see your child as the naughty child. You know, we try and say there's no naughty children. Children's behavior is trying to give you a message about something. So when they're acting out, it could be an indication that they're overwhelmed, they're anxious, or they're depressed as well.
What should you not say to somebody who's depressed?
Stop being depressed. Or get over it, or that's not serious, or, you know, stop thinking negatively. Because actually their mind doesn't allow them to just, it's not a switch that goes on and off. They're not choosing to be depressed. You know, they didn't ask to have depression. So it's about being empathetic, it's about being supportive. And supportive is not telling someone what to do. Supportive means acknowledging that this is difficult, but you're there for them. When
you look at your stats, are women prone to being more depressed? Because I heard that women suffer from depression more than men. But it could be the case of men don't want to say it because they're supposed to be the heads of the households. They're supposed to be strong and, you know, they're not going to be like, I'm depressed.
Yeah. So the stats comes from the people that are coming through for intervention. And what we see is mostly women come through. So it could be, it definitely is that women are more susceptible to depression, but also men don't necessarily come in for treatment. They feel it's a weakness, they feel like it's a blow to their ego, and they don't recognize it as depressed because they're not supposed to show feeling most of the time. So men are less likely to seek intervention compared to women.
And, okay, so we've done the gender one, let's talk about the economic one. Are lower income groups more prone to depression because they earn less? Or are you like, no, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you will be depressed?
It doesn't matter how much money you have. You know, poor, rich, middle class, all suffer from depression. You know, obviously, finances is a factor that influences, can trigger
You could
depression.
be depressed on a yacht, or you can be depressed at your house.
Absolutely. Money doesn't buy happiness. That's what they say, you know. So yes, you know, finances is a trigger, you know, whether you have too much and don't know what to do with it, or whether you have too little and don't know where the next plate of food is going to come from. So it definitely is a risk factor for depression.
Yeah, Jasmine, thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Really, like you just painted a better picture for me when it comes to this. So the South African Depression and Anxiety Group warns that signs of depression or serious stress should not be written off as mere holiday blues in the hope that they'll disappear in January. After the break, Nkini Pasha from South African Depression and Anxiety Group will be joining me as we look for solutions and where to find help. Stay with us here on Real Talk. And welcome back to Real Talk on SABC 3. Most South Africans have less than perfect holiday gatherings. There is the lingering family tension, the obnoxious drunk uncle, and the pressures of hosting the best family get-together. There are organizations created to help those who are experiencing different levels of stress and depression, especially around this time of the year. The levels of depression may vary per patient and life experience. To talk about where and how to find help, I'm now joined by Nkini Pasha, South African Depression and Anxiety Group spokesperson and board member. We welcome him back to Real Talk. It's your third time, right?
Yeah, I think so, actually. But it's been a while, though.
But I mean, third time, surely we should give you something. Yeah, you can have the star. You can have the star. So,
that's very good.
So listen, earlier on, I read a stat that, you know, depression and anxiety causes the country's economy something like 240 billion a year.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. I mean, it is startling.
It's startling. That's exactly what it is.
You know, and those statistics are actually real, you know, and it's very recent statistics. So there's a lot of people that, you know, are at work, but they're not really operating or functioning at their optimum. you know. And there's also a huge level of absenteeism as well, due to various types of mental disorders where people are simply not being able to cope. Obviously, when you are at work, you are expected to perform
at your optimum base.
Absolutely, you know. But there's also what we call presentism as well. So you're at work, but you're actually not there. You know, so it means then that the levels of outputs are compromised, and that impacts obviously on the outputs of the organization, which ultimately then culminates into that, you know, over 200 billion rands that is obviously lost due to, you know, unproductivity.
And obviously it's because the depression and the anxiety has not been, what's the word, when I see that's what's wrong?
Yeah.
Prescribed, when a doctor
diagnosed. It's not been diagnosed and treated. So in South Africa, I mean, you know, Anele, there's more than 70% of people that really have got an underlying mental disorder that is not receiving any attention, is not being receiving treatment and management. So it means that there's a huge amount of people that really are trying to pull through on their own. They're trying to obviously self-medicate and seek solace in other things, I'll get better. Or they tend to substances such as alcohol, marijuana, and other forms, you know, recreational drugs to just try and self-medicate and cope. Because remember as well, there's still a huge sense of stigma and discrimination. So a lot of people fear to come forward and seek help.
Which is what I was thinking about, you know, why people would not say it at work, because obviously work is the first ground that is so competitive that, you know, you're always under the impression somebody wants your job. Your boss is going to fire you. If you don't deliver, you're going to be that person on the team who is not like pulling their weights. You don't want to let the group down. So you go to work and you're depressed, and even if HR has, you know, SADC coming through, because I know like our radio station does it once a year. You guys come through and you chat to us. Are you sure you're not, you know, dealing with this? You're not gonna speak up and say yes, I'm depressed, because like then they're like, yeah, that's why she can't perform.
Exactly, and you get labeled. Remember, there's all these words that we use. Ooh, that one, be careful. That one is a bit loony. That one is because
that one is dark.
That one is like, hey, you know. And also, I mean, we did a survey as the South African Depression and Anxiety Group, particularly in the workplace, to really find out, you know, those that have been diagnosed with mental disorder, are they comfortable enough to come, you know, forward and actually speak out and tell their, you know, line managers to say, this is what I'm actually dealing with, you know. But also, the line managers themselves are not equipped enough to actually deal with a team member that is suffering from a type of a mental disorder.
And what happens if your line managers depress themselves and they don't know what they're going through?
They don't know what they're going through.
So it's like a perpetual cycle.
Absolutely. You know, but what we found, you know, through this survey is that a huge, you know, percentage of those were actually, you know, surveyed felt that, you know what, they are not comfortable to disclose. They fear that they will be discriminated. They might not get that raise or the increase. You know, they fear that they might actually lose their jobs.
Because also, let's say you're an air traffic controller, guys, you can't be depressed. You know, and they'll keep that in, whereas you could just honestly treat it.
Exactly. And when you keep it in, you know, it means that then obviously your performance outputs are not going to be at that level, because the environment is not conducive. It doesn't allow you to be yourself, you know, and to really, you know, once you are yourself, you can then perform better, you know. But when you are bottling this, you know, inside of you, you are trying to cope with it by yourself, you get home, you open a bottle of something, and it just becomes a vicious cycle. And that's certainly what we are seeing, that, you know, we need more and more of, you know, corporates to be empowered, to empower their line managers, their, you know, even senior directors, you know, to change this culture within our organizations, to create a much more, you know, welcoming and nurturing environment that, you know what, if you are suffering from depression, for example, you are not looked down upon and, you know, given these terms that, oh, you are crazy, you are loony, you are this, you are not stable, you know, and that in so doing, then, you know, people will actually be more comfortable to come forward and say, you know what, actually I'm battling from depression. I am on treatment, and then you can actually have that support, you know, within the organization that you exist in. We spend hours and hours at work, you know, so it's
You spend more time at work than you do at home.
Exactly, you know, so if that environment is not conducive enough for you, you can imagine the repercussions, you know, thereof.
And I mean, doesn't help that I feel South Africa is just, 2017 has had the worst economic year ever, right? And the economists are like, calm down, Anele, relax, So, but I mean, I know personally, and I know like with my line of friends and my family that like, the bonuses didn't happen this Christmas. The 13th checks were skinnier, than last year's. Going into, and we are in the festive season, everyone's supposed to be merry and cheery, and you guys are like, no, this is the time when people are the most depressed. What can people do?
Indeed, I mean, and in fact, you are lucky enough to still have your job if you have not been retrenched. You know, so that is a reality to a large number of South Africans. But certainly, this time of the year, it brings with it, there are a huge amount of expectations. There's huge pressures. Everybody expects you.
Presents.
Exactly.
School fees, school uniform.
Absolutely.
If you are taking care of your extended family, the pressure's on you.
The pressure's on to really, to supply, to provide, to be there and be happy as well. We've got this expectation that, let's all be merry, let's all be festive.
Or let's all go somewhere.
Exactly.
To me, that's another thing. Like, the first thing people ask you about your holidays, where are you going?
Where are you going?
What's wrong with my house?
Exactly. It's okay to be home. It's okay to actually spend this period at your house, at home. But the expectation is that everybody is going on some type of a holiday. Now, if you find yourself in a situation where you do not have the finances to do that, it can really throw you into a complete dip, where you feel sad. But also we know, Anele, that some families, some individuals have experienced a very, traumatic,
they lost a member of the family.
Exactly.
It's the first Christmas without that person.
Without that person, so that loss, it becomes sort of intensified during this time of the year, so you feel lonely, you feel that, you miss this person. But also, you might be in a situation where you're elderly, your kids are out of town, maybe they're overseas, and this time of the year, everybody sort of goes
it's the first time your kids are married and they're going with their new family, and now you're by yourself. I see why this time is terrible.
And then it's terrible. So you've got no one around you to sort of celebrate the festive season. So over and above the other pressures, of spending money, of being merry, but also you can feel lonely because you are all by yourself. It can be a huge reminder of something terrible that happened during this time of the year. So where everybody expects that it's a merry, it's a festive time of the year, contrary to that, for a lot of people, they really feel completely secluded and lonely. And it's okay.
And it's okay. You don't have to be Jingle Bells and Little Drummer Boy and all that.
And get into the whole commercial frenzy.
Yeah, what we're saying is it's okay.
It's okay.
Find your space.
Find your space. It's important to really be conscious, first of all, of your situation and to really make peace, with it. There's interventions, So if you are by yourself, your family is away, very far away. I mean, we've got, social media this day and age. There's technology that really can link you up. Maybe your family is in Australia, for crying out. So Skype with them, connect with them using those platforms. But if it's not possible, engage in community groups, in religious groups, so that actually you are surrounded by people, you are doing something meaningful. You could go and volunteer in a, in an orphanage, in an old age home, so that actually you are keeping busy, you are keeping your mind away from really feeling sad and feeling sorry for yourself and engaging. And in fact, you're doing something good, for those that actually are less fortunate than you are. Be conscious of the fact that, what is your budget? If you cannot afford, to be anywhere,
it's fine. My thing is, and it's fine. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And it's fine. Guinea, thank you so much. As always, your number will be on the screen so people can call Sadek. You guys must continue to do great work.
Thank you.
And you were quite insightful today. Thanks for that. Guinea Pasha, representing South African Depression and Anxiety Group. Smamkele Diale for a story of hope, and clinical psychologist Yasmin Kurveji. Thank you so much to all of them. I hope their messages got through to you, even if it's just one of you that's watching. If it'll help lift that paralysis caused by depression in your life this December and festive season, then our job is done. One thing I do know for sure, though, is that laughter really is the best medicine. So do stick around, as after the break, we spread some festive laughs to lift all of our spirits. And welcome back. We all know that South Africa is blessed with musical, acting, dance, sporting, and all sorts of other talent, but 2017 has been the year of the comedian. I firmly believe medical aid should actually just look into adding, like, you know, laughing therapy into our plans so we can frequent comedy gigs, right? So after watching this, you'll understand why, no matter what you are or have done through this year, please hold on to the fact that the sun will rise tomorrow. So chin up and ask for help when you must. From me and the rest of the team, until tomorrow, it's a good night.
Black girls, stop doing unsexy stuff when you come to my house, okay? Stop wearing your old Garfield night dress. It's not cool, okay? And I do not need to see you take your bra off without you taking what you're wearing on top off first. What is this move? What the hell is that? And then you pull it up from here. When they pull it up from here, Zambak is on the floor. There's 7 rand. Stop it, man.
You used all my Lux and all my lotion. Now you wanna hang your clothes out on the line. Omo and Stay Soft is expensive, my baby. And now you're telling me you can't even contribute a dime. I've got one line only, one washing line only. That's all I have to spare. One line only, hang your underbrookie over the chair. I've got one line only, one washing line only. Pick your stuff up off the floor. If you won't help me, boy, don't come around here no more. One washing line only.
Because sometimes black people fake it. They fake the Model C accent. And you can never tell. And, my name is Sipo. I live in Shinguve. There's only one way to catch Sipo out. Take his phone number and call him like at 4 a.m. before the accent kicks in. Like, hey, Shabkunja. Oh, yeah, it's Sipo.
And it's nice to find the happy South Africans in a room, man. Hey, because everybody's depressed. Everybody's depressed. Oh, there's water shortages. Oh. Shut up. You know it's where you're from. Especially black people. You know where we come from. We are all about water saving, ne? So it means stop living your Santon life, go back to your Tabancho life, ne? Because you know that one, Nagiri. It's simple to save water, my friend. You know you must boil water in a kettle to bath. That's the first thing. We are going back to the days of the Vascom, Baba. It's that simple. And you're all acting like, I don't know how must I shower? You know it's very simple. You get your little Vascom, you put it there, then you take the kettle. Now it's double saving, ne? You are saving electricity, you are saving water. Because now you don't let the kettle boil. How do I get you do switch off? You switch off because now it's hot enough. And it's a very simple principle. 1 part hot, 2 parts cold. So you put the hot water, then you tell her 2 parts, it's perfect. Mare, before you cut the water for your teeth, you know? You get a cup. You take the water for the brushing of the teeth, and then you can then proceed to wash yourself. And while Christies are happy, it saves you time for getting to work. So now you're saving electricity, time, and water, because now this is where you do the perfect ID photo, isn't it? You do your face, your underarms, bottom shelf. So